Okay, we're going to start in a minute or two. Let me just get some dates down. Um, I'm still taking attendance, so good, good. I'm still taking attendance. Um, Review next week, test the week after. Okay, so I'll have a regular exam. I'm sorry, a regular lecture this coming Monday. A week from today is the review, and the following week is the test. What we're doing today is another lecture on the custom subnet masking. It's the same lecture, but with different numbers, because I want to see if I can explain this to you. Whether you get it or not, though, we're done with it today. The custom subnet masking that I'm going to be lecturing on today will not be on your test. But for those 2 or 3 or 5 of you, the smart people, who think they might want to get the certification, you would need it for that. So I'm going to do one more. One more time. Review next week, exam, final exam the week after. And the last exam is chapter 10, 12, and 13. And on Mondays, we'll be doing 10, 12, and 13, all 3 in one day. The review is, I believe, on Wednesday, and the exam is the following Monday. Okay, so we all got that? Good. Now, having said that, we can relax a little bit. We're going to lecture on the subnet masking again. Again, it's the exact same lecture. However, for those who think they might be bored hearing the same lecture twice, it will be with different numbers. So hopefully, if you had trouble seeing it, you will see it better. I am dawdling because I'm still trying to get the attendance correct. Good. Good. And Mr. Smith is here. Good. Okay, I got everybody I need now, at least the important people. Okay, so having said that, let me do 4 things. Let me turn the light out here. Let me minimize this, and let me go and bring up what I want to bring up, and we'll see what we can do. Now, okay, I think we're going to start with this one here. Sorry about all the sharing and stuff. It's just a pain in the neck, too. All right, so let's talk about this one here to begin with, and that is the regular one. Okay, we've done this before. So here we go. 10.1.1.23 with a /8. What does the /8 mean? 8 ones. So that means in this case, it's a class A address. What does that mean? We all got to be 10. I can be 10.2.4, you can be 10.8.7, as long as we're all 10, we're on the same subnet. Well, how do I know that? Because the number under the ones has to be the same. So as long as we're all 10, we're on the same subnet. 10.1/ what does the /8 means? 8 ones or 255. Everybody got that? Now, the class B address, it's 134.5.6.9, but all I care about is the first 2 bytes here. How do I know that? Because I've got 2 255s. Now, this guy is /16. What does /16 mean? 8 ones here and 8 ones here. So /16 is 2 255s. That means as long as we're all 134.5, you can be 569, you can be 587, you can be 522, but as long as we're all 134.5, we're on the same subnet. Well, how come we only had to have 1 digit here be the same? How come we need 2 here? Because here the subnet mask is 1 255, which means only the 10 has to be the same. Here it's 2 255s, it means the 134 and 5 have to be the same. Okay, we got that, right? The one we see most often is this one. And what's the one we see most often? And that's this one here, 192.14.12.89. Well, in that case, we all got to be 192.14.12. Well, why? Well, let's begin. Let's go over here. /24, /24. Well, what does 24 mean? 8 ones here, 8 ones here, and 8 ones here. 3 times 8 is 24. That means the first 3 bytes have to be the same. Why? Because the first 3 numbers are under the ones. So in this case, as long as you're 194, 192, 14, 12, you could be .40, you could be .89, you could be .70, but you all got to be 192, 14, 12. Why? Because it's all on the number under the ones, there's 3 255s. So the class A is 1 255, the class B is 2 255s, and the class C is 3 255s. Now remember, we do want to understand that /8 means 1 set of ones. /16 means 2 sets of 8 ones. 8 and 8 is 16. And /24 means 3 sets of 8 ones, which is 3 255s. Now remember, I'm telling you, I asked you some of this stuff on my second test, and most of you got it right. So I'm very happy. I will not be doing any of this on my final exam. But for the few of you in the class who want to get certified, you are going to need this. Okay, all right. So I am going to now stop sharing this, not because I'm done with the lecture at all, but because I have other things I want to cover. All right, so now we're going to talk about the custom subnet masking. Now let's see, how am I going to do that? I think I'll do that by cutting to the chase and starting with a new whiteboard. Okay, and now I have a little problem with how I'm going to do this, but this is where I wish I was in class with you, but I'm not, so that's why. Now, how do I do this now? I gotta do this first, go to the dark color, and do this next, go to the pencil tool. So, what if I have 8 ones followed by 8 ones, and then don't worry, you can't read these, followed by 8 ones, but now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to do so look, I've got 8 ones here, 8 ones here, 8 ones here, and then 4 ones followed by 4 zeros. Now, you say, Professor, didn't you do this lecture last time? Well, I did the lecture last time with 3 ones and 5 zeros. Now I'm doing it with 4 ones and 4 zeros, okay? So then this number would be 255. This number would be 255. And again, I'm writing. And this number would be 255. But this number would be 240. And I'm going to explain why in a minute. So now, the subnets would be 192.14.12.something.something.something and .something. So I need to know if I have a subnet mask of 255.255.255.240, what are the actual subnets I'd have? All right, now I'm going to see if I can do this a little bit crazy. So you all were here last time. Nobody was absent. So that's why I can cut to this part of it. I'm going to now share content. I'm leaving this alone, and I'm going to share a second whiteboard. And the second whiteboard should come out a lot better. So what I'm going to do now is this. I am going to, and this is tricky, I'm sorry, I'm still learning this. Okay, so this is 1, 2, son of a bitch, 16, 32, 64, and this is 128. All right, so I want to know what the networks will be. So we're going to count in binary. Now, last time we counted in binary, we did it with the 3 ones. Now we're going to count in binary with the 4 ones. And am I really having trouble with this? All right, let's see now. That's 0001. That's 0010. That's binary 2. Then here's binary 3. and here's binary 4, and here's binary 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll put a 0 over here. Okay, but that's not really binary 1, is it? Because the number here is under the 16, and I'm so sorry about my lack of penmanship. That's a 6, 16. Okay, so this number, if I put zeros in over here, and I hope I leave enough room, that is 16. And this number is, if I put zeros in over here, and this I have to do that is 32. And this number, if I put zeros in, is 32 plus 16. So that is really 48. And this number, of course, is, if I put the zeros in, 64. And no, son of a bitch. That's a 4. And the last number here is 64 plus 16. I believe that's 80. And of course, that's a 64 here. All right, so here would be, if I had a subnet mask of 255.255.255.240, and my network address was 192.168.12, the first subnet would be 192.168.12.0. Why 0? Because there's one here I didn't bother to put in, and that would be all zeros. The next guy would start at .16, so 192.168.12.16. The next guy would start at 32. The next guy would start at 48. That would mean that if I had a guy of 17, 18, 19, and 20, they'd all see each other. But a guy of 35, 36, 37, they'd see each other too. But a guy 35, 36, 37 wouldn't see a guy 18, 19, 20 because they're crossing the subnet. A guy in the low 40s wouldn't see a guy in the high 40s. Why? Because the low 40s is on this subnet, the high 40s on this subnet. So you'd have to know where, and that is only, and here's the cuidado, I left something big out. That is only in the case of a subnet mask of 240. Now, wait, Professor, didn't you do this last time? No, last time I did it with 224. And those were, I think, 32, 64, 96, etc. With 240, it's 16, 32, 48, 64, blah, blah, blah. Notice something. We are now doing multiples of 16. 16 plus 16 is 32. If I add 16 to that, I get 48. If I add 16 to that, I get 64. If I add 16 to that, I get 80. If I add 16 to that, I get 96. So these are multiples of 16, but only if you're using 240. Do you now see that no matter which subnet mask you use, what am I trying to say? The numbers and the results are going to be different. So and I'm coming back to the big one in a few minutes, but I'm just doing the lecture a little bit out of order this time because I have to wing it. All right, we're done, right? We don't go home. No, we're nowhere near done. Okay, let's begin. All right, so let's begin about what the numbers we're allowed to use is. We did that last time. Are we allowed to use the number 16? No, we can't. What do you mean you can't use 16? You told me that if I have it in there, that's the first one of the next network. Yes, it is, but that describes the entire network. You know what the first number we're allowed to use? The first number we're allowed to use is 17. 17 is okay. 18 is okay. 19 is okay. 32. Son of a bitch, what just happened? We're not allowed to use 32. I'll put the X here. And why can't we use 32? Because 32 is the beginning of the next one. We can't use it. 33 is okay. 34 is okay. We're also not allowed to use 31. And the reason we can't use 31, and I'm not sure what's going on here, why I can't use 31, is because 31, yeah, that's okay. 31, the one in the right-hand column, it's all ones. Now, why do I care if the right-hand column is all binary ones? because all binary ones in the right-hand column is also known as the broadcast address. So I can't use the last one of the previous subnet because it's the broadcast address. And I can't use the first one, the new subnet, because why? Because that's the subnet address. In other words, you're on the 32 subnet, but you can't be 32. You're on the 48 subnet, but you can't be 48. You're on the 80 subnet, but you can't be 80. You can be 81, 82, 83. But 80 refers to the entire subnet. So I always lose 2 when I cross over. So the range of that middle subnet isn't 16 to 32. You know what the range of that middle subnet is? It's 17 to 30. Well, wait a minute. I know you can't use 32. Why isn't it 17 to 31? Well, because 31 is one before it, and that's the broadcast address. So it's 17 to 30. Let's do the next one. It's not 32 to 48. It is 33 to 46. Well, why isn't it 33 to 47? Because I can't use the previous one because that's the broadcast address. The next one is 48 to 64. By the way, that's a 4, even though it came out terrible. This guy here is a 4. Okay, so it's not 48 to 64, it's 49 to 62. Wait, why isn't it 49 to 63? Because I can't use the one before it because that's the broadcast address. You see what I'm getting at? All right, so that is that particular one. Now, I'm nowhere near done with the lecture, but I'm going to try something. Let's go now and spend a long time on this one. Oh, okay, I can't do that. No, just a minute. Just a minute. All right, so what I have to do is just a minute. I have to minimize this. Minimize this. Go over here. Recent items. And I need the Rev 1. Where the Rev? Yeah, there it is. Good. Okay, now I can bring this up and share. And this is what I want to share and spend a few minutes on. Okay, so we're going to spend a few minutes on this guy. I'm really sorry about this stuff having to share all the time. So let's begin. What are all the variable length subnet masks? Well, we already knew they could be 255 or 0. Now they can be either be 2 ones, which is 192, 3 ones, which is 224, 4 ones, which is 240, 5 ones, which is 248. And by the way, why is this 240? Because this is 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16. If you add 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16, you'll get 240. On the other hand, with this one, if you add 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16 plus 8, then you get 248. See what I'm saying? So 2 ones is 192, 3 ones is 224. And by the way, this is the one we did on Monday. I don't know if you understood it or not. We did it. 4 ones is 240, 5 ones is 248, 6 ones is 252, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we did on Monday the numbers here. And I just remember them, but we did them. I think they were 32 and 64 and 96, right? Today we did the numbers here. And they were, I believe, 16, 32, 48. They were multiples of 16. Well, I'm not going to ever do all these. I need another day to do each one of these. I don't want to bother. But do you understand that the answers for 224 on Monday are completely different than the answers for 240 of today, and would be completely different if I did this one, or completely different if I did this one. So every one of them is going to have different answers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. All right, let's go to my favorite part of it, though, the trickiest part, and that's this here. I don't know why I can't go down. All right, so let's try this one. Why is this 26? 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 plus 2 is 26. I can't scroll down. Well, yeah, why is this 27? Yeah, what the hell? Why can't I scroll down? Oh, there we go. There we go. That's what I want. Okay, So why is this guy say 28? 28. 8, 3 times 8 is 24. What's 240? 240 is 4 ones. What's 24 plus 4? 28. What's this guy? 3 times 8 is 24. That's 24. What's 248? 248 is 5 ones. What's 24 plus 5? / 29. You see the problem? So that's how we got that. Now, this is where it gets very tricky. How come with this one I did today, the 240 with 4 ones, how come I can have up to 16 subnets? And I don't want to go back and undo the thing, but remember what I was doing. The more numbers I have under the ones, the more counts I can have. So let's try this guy. This guy only has 2 ones. You know what I can do here? I can go 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. I got 4 possible combinations under here. That gives me 4 subnets. But here I've got 3 ones. Here I can go 001, 010, 0010. I got much more. I got 7 or 8 of them. So now I can have 8 subnets. But here with another 1, I can have more numbers. I can go 01, 0110, 0110. I'm going to go way down. So I can have from 0 to 15. That is 16 counts. That's 16 subnets because there's more ones. Well, what do I do if I add another one? Now I have just more numbers I can generate. Now I can up to 32 subnets. The more ones you have, the more subnets you can have. The fewer ones you have, the fewer subnets you can have. Now, say, Professor, I got that, but how do I memorize? How do I memorize the exact number? Watch carefully. There are 3 ones here. 2 to the 3rd power is 8. There are 4 ones here. 2 to the 4th power is 16. By the way, what's 2 to the 4th power? It's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 4 times. That is 16. There are 5 ones here. 2 to the 5th power is 32. What's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2? 5 times. That's 32. There are 6 ones here. What's 2 to the 6th power? 64. So I simply remember by the number of ones, that's the number of subnets I can have. The more ones, the more subnets. The fewer ones, the fewer subnets. But that's not good enough. You have to know the exact number. So in other words, if I wanted 12, 13, 14 subnets, I'd use 240. If I wanted 15 or 16 subnets, I'd use 240. But if I wanted 17, 18, or 19 subnets, I couldn't use 240. I'd have to move to 248. If I need 28, 29 subnets, I could use 248. If I need 30 or 31 subnets, I could use 248. If I use 32 subnets, I could still use 248. But if I need 33 or 34 subnets, I can't use 248. I got to move to 252. You know what I'm saying? So you'd have to know the exact number of subnets, but you can calculate. There's a reason. Now, I'll go over the host in a minute, but here's what I'll go to the hard part of it. And again, I'm going to go for another 20 minutes, half hour, and then we'll be done, I think. But this is the last lecture on this, but I'm trying to explain it to you. Well, Professor, I can sort of understand that if I have 240 and I go down here, 3 times 8 is 24, and then I add 4 more, that becomes 28. I think I could get that. I understand that. Well, good, because that's not what they're going to ask you. What they're going to ask you is, it's going to give you a number of 192, 1412 / 27. How many subnets could you have on that one? Well, wait, what do you mean? How many subnets? You'd have to know that / 27 is equal to 3 extra ones. And the 3 extra ones is / 224. And the 224 with 3 ones give you up to 8 subnets. So suppose here's a number / 28. How many subnets can you have? / 28, how do I know? What do I got to do? Well, I have to know that / 28 is 3 times 8 is 24. 24 from 28 is 4. That means this number here must have been 240. I have to know that by just having a / 28. Then I have to know that 240 consists of 4 ones. Then I have to know that 2 4 ones is 2 to the 4th power, and that's 16 subnets. The point I'm getting at is they're going to ask you to go from here, back to here, up to here, not from here to here, down to here, and over to here. Because going from here to here, down to here, and over to here is pretty easy. Going from here back to here, and then back to here, and then back to here, that is not easy. Well, I take it back. That is easy if you know cold this piece of paper. If you know this piece of paper code, then it's very easy to do what I just said. If you don't know it, you're going like this with your fingers saying, let's see, that's this, let's see, that's that, let me see, oh boy, oh my God. And your brain is melting down, turning spaghetti. So you have to know this exact sheet. Are you going to memorize it? Sort of, but you're also going to understand it, right? Let's talk for a minute about the number of hosts. The number of hosts is simply the number of computers on each subnet. Now, that's based on the number of zeros. Now, this should not be rocket science. The fewer ones you have, the more zeros you have. The more ones you have, the fewer zeros you have. So if you have very few ones, you have very few subnets. But that gives you a lot of zeros, which means a lot of computers on each subnet. Now, when you go up here, you have a lot of ones. A lot of ones gives you a lot of subnets. But a lot of ones giving you a lot of subnets means very few zeros. And very few zeros means what? Very few hosts on each subnet. Now, here's the tricky part, and I just did the lecture on it, so pay attention. Why is this tricky? Because this is 2 to the n minus 2. Watch. Number of subnets. 2 to the n, where we're talking n is the number of ones. 2 to the n, where n is the number of ones. The number of hosts is 2 to the n minus 2, where n is the number of zeros. So let's try this one. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. What's 2 to the 6th power? It's 64. But I got to subtract 2 to give me 62. What do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. What's 2 to the 5th power? 2 to the 5th power is 32, but I got to subtract 2 to give me 30. Here's my favorite one. I've got 4 ones. What's 2 to the 4th? 16. That's the number of subnets. Well, I've also got 4 zeros. What's 2 to the 4th power? 16. But in this case, I got to subtract 2 to give me 14. Now, why do I have to subtract 2? Because of the lecture we just did. You can't use the 32 and you can't use the 31. You can't use the 64 and you can't use the 63. Every time I leap from one subnet to the other, I lose the network ID one, which means I can't use that as a real address. And I need the broadcast ID one, the last one, which means I can't use that as a real address. So I always have to subtract 2 when I'm talking about hosts for the reason I just gave at the beginning. Remember, you can't use the 32, you can't use the 31, but you can use 33, 34, 35. With 64, you can't use the 64 and you can't use the 63, but you can use the 65, 66, 67. So with that one, I'm always breaking off with the number of hosts. The number of hosts is 2 to the n minus 0, where n is the number of zeros. The number of subnets is 2 to the n, where n is the number of ones. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Okay? All right, now, do you have to memorize this chart? Well, let me give you my little speech. I think I gave it to you last time, but I'm doing this lecture so many classes, I forgot. When you go in to take the Network Plus test, you want to have this with you. So the best idea is bring it in with you. Well, wait a minute, Professor, you told me when you take a test, you can't bring any paper in with you. You can't, that's right. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit down and they're going to give you 2 blank sheets of paper, and then you can take the test. But before you take the test, they give you a sample test, sort of an orientation test. And that orientation test is they ask you some silly questions from trivia, and you got to select A and B and select 2 because they want to make sure you know how to take the test. That sample test doesn't count on your real test. It's just you do it, but it's not part of the timing. And then it says you're ready to take the real test. You say yes. It says, okay, when you're ready, click start, and the timer will start. You take your real test. But you don't have to click timer right away. You could sit there for 5 or 10 minutes perspiring heavily and praying if you want to. What you're going to do is not sit there for 5 or 10 minutes perspiring and praying. You're going to sit there for about 5 minutes. You're going to take a blank sheet of paper they gave you, and you're going to, from memory, reproduce the sheet. Professor, I can't memorize this sheet. Of course you can. 192 is 2 ones, that's 26. 224 is 3 ones, that's 27. 240 is 4 ones, that's 28. Of course you can. And when you put in 240 here and you say that's 4 ones, I forgot how many there are. What's 2 to the 4th power? Well, wait, I forgot how many there are too. What's 2 to the 4th power minus 2? Well, wait, I forgot how many there are too. What's 2 to the 3rd power? I forgot this. What's 2 to the 5th power minus 2? So you're going to put all this in sitting there for 5 or 10 minutes on your own time. Now, why is that important? Because when you get the test, and then when you click go take the test, you have, I think, either, I don't know, 60, 90 minutes, whatever. You don't want to be duplicating this or figuring this out on the test time. You want to be figuring this out in your own time. So if it takes you 15 or 20 minutes to type this in, that's not part of your test. When you get this completed, then you start the test. Now, if it asks you a question of /28, you just look, let's see, /28, 240. Let's see, 240, 16 subnets. Wait, they asked /26. Let's see, /26, 192. Let's see, 192, 4 subnets. You see what I mean? You got this all in front of you. It takes you 2 seconds to answer any question. And you did it on your own time, not the test time. You are going to have to be able to duplicate this from scratch, and you are going to have to understand it. Again, I'm talking to only those who want to take the actual test. And I think in this class, I can tell, not all of you, but I can tell there's quite a few people in this class who are smart enough to do it. One other thing. Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
On the Networking Plus test, how many questions in total do you know are on there?
I think it's about 58 or 60. So it's a
Okay.
fairly, yeah,
And you
I
said
think
they give you,
I think you get maybe 80 or 90 minutes for 58 or 60 questions.
okay, and it's just based on all the chapters in the book that we.
Well, you have to study for it by doing a practice test, but yes, it's based on what we covered.
Do they does the program that you take the test for give you practice tests, or how does that work?
No, it gives you a sample test about trivia to show you how to click on stuff. But no, it doesn't give you a practice test. But I'm going to tell you next week. Remind me, I know who you are. Remind me next week to give the little lecture on how you're going to buy practice tests and on your own time do it from your bedroom.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay, very good. All right, all right. So there's something else I was going to say in a second that's very important. Oh, okay. So you're going to duplicate this on your own, and then you're simply going to look it up. And by the way, I'd also put the number of hosts part in, because they may ask the number of subnets and they may ask the number of hosts. But again, if you have this in front of you, it's real simple. Now, I'm smart enough that I can do it with my fingers, okay? But I've been doing this for years. I don't want you doing it on your fingers. And I don't want you trying to duplicate this while the test timer is going. I want you having duplicated this before the test timer is going on your own time. So you're having the full amount of time to devote to the test. That's what I really want. See what I mean? So this is probably, and again, I emailed you this. Some of you printed it out, some of you didn't. I'd urge that you do print it out. First thing is I'd urge you to memorize it so you understand it, okay? But the second thing is memorize it enough so that you could, from a blank sheet of paper without this in front of you, duplicate this entire thing. It's not that hard. And by the way, a lot of this stuff is in chapter 6. I skipped it in chapter 6 on purpose. I didn't want to do it. But this 192, 224, 240, you're going to see at the end of chapter 6 in the book. I didn't want to lecture on it because I couldn't have at that time. It's going to take me all this time to do it. And that's what it took. So now let me see where I'm going here after this. Yeah, so I just wanted to concentrate on the number of subnets is the number of ones. The number of zeros is the number of hosts. The more ones you have, the more subnets you have. The more zeros you have, the more hosts you have. As your ones increase, your subnets increase, but your hosts decrease. Oh, I'll give you one of my favorite ones. It's this one here. This one here. This guy has 2 to the 6th power is 64, and that's it. But this guy for hosts only has 2 zeros. Well, what's 2 squared? 2 squared is 4. That means there are 4 possible addresses here. You have 4 possible addresses, but you can't use 2 of them. The first and the last one you can't use. Even though there's 4 possible address numbers, there's only 2 that you can use legally. And that's why this subnet's a very interesting one. This subnet can only have 2 computers on it, period. Now, one of my other favorite ones for a different reason is this one here. This I can give up to 128 subnets. Well, there's only 1 0, and 2 to the 1st power is only 2. There are 2 possible addresses, and neither one is legal, because the first one's the first one, the last one's the last one, there's no in-between ones. Well, you already know you can't use the first one, you can't use the last one. I can use all the rest of them, but there ain't no rest of them. So what are you going to do? You're kind of screwed. So you can't use the rest of them. So this gives you a subnet with no addresses. That's why we would never use this one. We would never use this one. Because is it a legal subnet? Yes. How many computers can you have on it? None. Zip. Zero. This one's used in special cases when you only need 2. So you can do that. I don't expect you to be that familiar with that. I expect you to just be able to duplicate this piece of paper from here and be able to take it into the test with you, and then be able to do the test from this piece of paper. Miss Iman, who asked the question, it's not like there's a whole bunch of questions on this. Of 55 questions, there might be 1, 2, or 3 on this. I mean, it's a very small part of the test, but you're going to be struggling to pass. So you got to get everything right you can. So you don't want to throw away 3 questions when you're going to get some other ones wrong anyway. It might make the difference. So by putting this piece of paper in front of you, whatever 2 or 3 questions you get, you'll get those right, and then you won't have to worry if you get some other ones wrong. So it's
Do you
not
know
like-
what? Do you know what the minimum score is to pass?
It's only in the 70s, high 60s, low 70s.
Okay.
I'll tell you why that's important. If you take the Cisco certification,
Mhm.
that's got a humongous number of questions, and you got to get like an 82 or an 85 to even pass it. You get anything below an 85, you fail it. With this guy here, I think all you need is a 68 or a 72, and you
Okay.
pass it.
My dad
And
did
that-
Cisco.
And that's very well. Cisco, as I said, is the most valuable one, but it's also the most difficult one.
Yeah.
But this one you can pass. As long as she brought it up, I'll just tell you. I'll talk about it next week. What you want to do is you want to buy some sample questions. They're called brain dumps. So if you have nothing to do over the weekend, just Google Network Plus brain dumps. And brain dumps are sample questions. Now you can get a couple free ones, and just try taking them on your own. And even if it's not everything I covered, it should be somewhat familiar. It should be stuff like what's a packet, what's a frame, what's a MAC address, what's an IP address. It should be somewhat simple. Once you think you have a flair for this, then you may want to buy a brain dump for about $100 or so that's got a lot of really good sample test questions. And then you want to spend several weeks pretending that you're studying for a final exam. You want to spend several weeks just going over and over and over the one you bought. And then when you've won weeks and weeks of going over it, then you try to take the test and pass it.
Do you know if
Right.
the Networking Plus exam does that cost money as well to
Well,
take the test?
repeat it. The networking what exam?
To take the Networking Plus exam, do you have to pay for it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You have to,
Do you know how
couple
much? it
$100.
is? Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well, that's why you want to practice, because you don't want to pay for it, fail. And you can take as many times you want to, but that's a deception of oxymoron. You can take as many times you want to, but each time's going to cost you a couple $100. So you got to take it 5, 6, 7 times. You're blowing $1,000 worth of money. You want to make sure that you pay for it once and pass it the first time.
Does the
And you-
test change every time?
No, yes and no. What happens is what they do is there's several hundred test question bank, and every time you take the test, 50 questions are pulled out of the bank for your test. So if you took it 10 times, you probably see every question. See what I'm saying? But it changes in the sense that just a different random group of questions is taken. So the second time you take it, you'll probably get a few questions from the first time and a few different ones. It doesn't really change. It's just they pick a different group from the sample. See what I mean? You don't want to have to take it 5 times. You don't want to. And the reason they charge a lot of money is exactly that. If it was $2 a test, take it 20 times. Who cares? At $200 a test, you care a lot. You don't want to take it 20 times. You want to take it once, twice at the max. I want to move on. If anybody has questions, I'll listen. Does everybody understand this particular handout? This is the one I'm really pushing, that you understand what we did on this particular handout. Now, since we have a few minutes, I think I'm going to do something else. What I think I'm going to do is, I'll stop sharing just this one. Now I'm back to here. Now what I thought I might, my phone is ringing, but as you know, I never answer the phone when I'm lecturing. I'm going to put a new whiteboard up. And I think I'll do, yeah, my phone is still ringing, but I never answer during a lecture. Where did I put my, don't worry, I'm not answering. Oh, here it is. Okay, come on,
Professor.
phone, stop ringing. Anybody have a question? I'll listen.
Yeah, I got a question.
What's your question?
So if we're going for their certificate, Are we going for the professional or the associate?
I'm missing that. You're going for the Network Plus exam. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about a certificate? I'm missing what your question is.
Oh, never mind. I thought it was a certificate is what we were getting.
No, you're getting the Network Plus exam.
Oh,
Let me try this. That would be 248. Hate these fours. 248. That's a 4. Fuck you with this. All right, so let's try it. I'm going to count in binary again. 0, 0, 1. 0, 1, 0. 0, 1, 1. 1, 0, 0. But now I got to do this. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. So if I've got a 1 here, the first guy here then is 8. The next guy here is 16. The next guy here is, and this is important, what's 16 plus 8? 24. 16 plus 8 is 24, right? I can't do my 4s. And this guy is, I think, 32. So I got to make sure we understand that this is a 16 out of 10. All right, so it's 8, 16, 24, 32. So if the subnet mask is 248, it's multiples of 8. Now I don't want to have to go back because it's confusing. We just did 240. What was 240? 240 was 16, 32, 48. 240 was multiples of 16. Last time we did 224. 224 was 32, 64, 96. 224 was multiples of 32. You see where the last one is? Where's the last one? It's in the 8s column. So 248, it's multiples of 8s. With 240, it was multiples of 16. With 224, it was multiples of 32. Now remember, I can't use 8. Why can't I use 8? I can't use 16. Why can't I use 16? Because those are the subnets things. I also can't use 7. Why can't I use 7? Because that's the broadcast address. But I can use 654. I can't use 16, but I can use 17, 18, 19, and 20. I hate this marker. I can't use 24. I also can't use 23, but I can use 25, 26, 27, 28. I always can't use the 8, the 16, the 24, the 32, but I also can't use the 7 and the 15. But I can't use 7, I can't use 8, but I can use 9, 10, 11, 12. So this one doesn't go from 8 to 16. This goes from 9 to 15. No, it doesn't. It goes from 9 to 14. It goes from 9 to 14. I can't use 15. I can't use 16. This one doesn't go from 16 to 24. This one goes to 17 to 22. Why doesn't it go from 17 to 23? Because I can't use the one before it. It goes from 17 to 22. I can't use 23. I can't use 24. But I can use 25, 26, 27, et cetera, et cetera. And again, this keeps going. This is 32. The next guy here is, I think, 40. The next guy here is this. And I have to put numbers over here. So notice all the numbers I have. I have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these guys. 2 to the 5th power. I'm going to be able to type in, I think, 30 some odd addresses. I'd be able to get in because I've got such a big space. How many hosts do I have? 2 to the 3rd power. That's 8. Not 8 hosts, so 6. Every one of these subnets will only have 6 on it. Well, let's try it. 8 to 16. Why do I only have 6? 7 is 1, 8 is 1, 9 is 1, 10 is 1, 11 is 1, 12 is 1, 13, 13 is 1, but I can't use 15 and I can't use 16. The bottom line is 8 from here to 8 is 8. I only get 6 because I'm losing 2. I'm losing 16, I'm losing 15. See what I'm saying? So that's why, what do I have? More 1s, fewer 0s. More subnets, fewer hosts. And that's the 248. Now, if you take my Cisco class, the person who asked about Cisco, you would have to know this code. In Cisco, they're going to ask you a lot of detailed stuff on it. And in Cisco, if you take the class, we're going to spend 3 weeks on this before you learn it, and you'll know it, and you'll know it well, because I'll make you learn it. Here, they'll ask you some very simple questions on it. Still, having said that, though, you still want to, that sheet, the VLSM sheet that we went over, you still want to memorize that sheet. You do want to have that sheet memorized, and you do want to understand that sheet. Okay? Let me just, yeah. So there's your sheet again, and that's the sheet you want to memorize. And the trick I said about putting the sheet together, you won't get a very sophisticated question on, but you might get a question like /28, how many subnets? Well, immediately /28, 240, 16 subnets. Why? Because the sheet's in front of us. But if I just said to you on the subway sometime, /28, how many subnets? You say, well, wait, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to figure this out. It doesn't come to you immediately. If this sheet's in front of you, /27, 224, 224, 8 subnets. I mean, it comes right away. But without the sheet, it doesn't. You're going to duplicate the sheet in front of you and know it. Why is it called variable length? Oh, that's one thing. Why is it called variable length subnet masking? Because the subnet mask is variable lengthing. Now, here's the cuidado I made with the other class I didn't make with you. There's no other possibilities. These are the only possibilities. Why? You can't have 3 ones and then a couple zeros and then 2 more ones. You can't have 2 ones, 2 zeros, and 2 more ones. It's always 2 zeros, 2 ones followed by all zeros, or 3 ones or 4 ones. It's got to be one of these combinations. You can't have a few ones, a few zeros, a few ones. It's got to be one of these combinations. Therefore, this are the only possibilities. There are no others. So while this might seem like a complex sheet, if I said, well, it's this and 5 other possibilities, oh, I could never learn that. It's this and nothing else. This is the only possibilities. It's got to be 3 ones and 5 zeros, or 4 ones and 4 zeros, or 5 ones and 3 zeros. It's got to be one of these combinations translating to one of these numbers. I got a better one. The subnet mask should never have any number in it that's not one of these. No, if I ever see a subnet mask with a .259 or a .34, it doesn't exist. The only subnet mask can be 2550 or .192 or .224 or .240. There can't be any other random numbers. These are the only combinations. Now, are there a lot of them? Yes. Are they complicated to learn? Sort of. But there's no other possibilities. And down here, these are the only possibilities. There's no other possibilities. See what I'm saying? So while this might be tricky to memorize and understand, once you got it, it's not like now we'll give you the second version or third version. This is the only possibilities. Subnet mask can have in it 3 possible numbers, either 0, 255, or any one of these. So it could be 255, 255, 255, 192, 255, 255, 255, 224, 255, 240, 248, but it can't be anything else. It can't be anything else. It's just got to be those. And that's the subnet mask. And knowing the /25, 26. And here's why this, oh, I know the last thing I want to say. He ruined my train of thought when he did it. I'm stressing for all the geeks and the nerds in this class who want to get the certification, that how good that's going to be. But let me talk to you average people who aren't going to get the cert. If you have a job interview and he asks a question like this, and he sees you calculating like this, you're going to be hired like that. On the other hand, if I ask /28 how many subnets, and I see the guy drooling, staring into space, staring at the ceiling saying, duh, 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 the interview's over. So even if you make a mistake, if I see you analyzing this, going like this, figuring these things out, I say, look, this person knows what this is about. This person understands subnetting. This person understands the whole problem. Yes, maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you didn't get it right. But this person over here was drooling into his shorts. You were actually figuring stuff out. Who am I going to hire? So while it's good to get the certification, I want you to get it, and I hope all of you get it, and the certification will help you get a job. If you're asked any kind of a job interview question and you can calculate at this level, you've put yourself miles above the average schmuck who's sitting there staring at it hypnotically, wondering what to do next. This will get you the job, I'm telling you. Being able to analyze this and do this shows that you're in the ballpark. I remember once, this has nothing to do with this. I went for an engineering job once, and he gave me some complicated problem, and he saw my calculations, and I screwed it up. I got it wrong. But he hired me. And he said, because you knew what you were doing. He said, yes, you made a mistake. I saw the mistake instantly. He said, but you knew what you were doing. He said, I knew what you knew what was happening. So if you're doing this stuff and you're analyzing it this way, and he sees you writing this stuff out, you'll be hired even if you don't get the answer right. But he'll know right away if you have no idea how to proceed. And he'll know instantly, and he'll say, no, this is not the person I want. One other thing, too, quickly is IPv4 is going away and IPv6 is coming, so you don't have to know this, right? Let me tell you, we're in a TCP/IP world, and we're going to be in a TCP/IP world for at least another decade. This is the kind of gibberish you need to get a job, period. You can do this, they'll hire you. You can't do this, not that they won't hire you, but they know you're a real low-level trainee. They're going to have to spoon feed. If you're doing this kind of stuff, they'll say, hey, this person's got some backbone, some intelligence. I can work with this person. This person's somebody I want. So while, yes, it's important to get it for the cert, I'd say knowing at this level is super important to show that you're above the low level. You're not an entry-level moron. You're an entry-level genius, and that's where you want to be hired. Okay? I'm going to stop in a minute or two because I'm getting tired. Any questions on this particular sheet or anything we've covered? All right. So let me just remind you of something. Next week on Monday, we're going to do a regular lecture on, say, 10, 12, and 13. Next Wednesday, a week from today, is the formal review. Don't miss a week from today, the formal review. And I believe 2 weeks from Monday or the week after that, that's the test. So the formal review is a week from today, and the week after that's the test, and we're done. No more new material. We've covered all the new material. The test Monday will be nothing new. It will be chapter 10, 12, and 13. We're not covering any more new material. And remember the last exam, 10, 12, and 13, not 10, 11, 12. Any questions, any comments? Anybody want to throw a tomato at me?
Debate. No, I was joking.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question again?
I'm sorry, what'd you ask again?
Can I ask another question about?
Yeah, sure you can. What's
okay,
the right?
So as you were talking a little bit about the networking exam, I kind of did some research. And I was wondering, is the networking plus exam time sensitive, so you have to continue to renew it?
Oh, let me ask that to all of them. A plus, network plus, and security plus theoretically are time sensitive. But let me explain why I think that's BS.
All right.
Let's say someone came along and had an A plus exam from, say, 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to worry that it's an old one. They're going to worry that you once got it. You're smart enough to get it. So if you get the Net Plus exam and you happen to work for somebody who advertises themselves as Net Plus something, the employer might make you get it over and over again. But as far as getting a job, if you ever had Net Plus once, whether it's 10 years ago or 5 years ago, they know you're at a certain level intellectually. So they want somebody who once passed the Net Plus. The fact that it's old and it's out of date, they don't care. You were smart enough to pass it at one time. This person next to you never passed it. They're going to hire you because you passed it at one time.
Okay, so you technically kind of do need to take it.
Technically you do, but pragmatically, once you get the job, nobody cares. And even if you apply for a job in 10 years, you can still say I'm Net Plus certified. The guy says, well, wait, you have an old version. Say, oh, no problem. I'm so smart. Hire me, pay me, and I'll take the latest version for you. But I'm not going to take it on my own. You know I'm already Net Plus certified. You want me to get the latest version? Hire me, pay for the test, and I'll take it. By the way, you might have a lot of trouble passing it, but you don't let him know that. You make him think it'd be real easy to pass.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're still considered network.
Yes,
still considered certified.
Yeah. As far as getting a job, once you get one of these certs, you've got it for life, as far as I'm concerned.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Very good question. That was a very good question. All right, one last thing. You're supposed to be reviewing or evaluating your teachers in all your classes. So the reason I'm telling you to do it, not only in this class, but all your other classes, is a lot of people are objecting to this online stuff. If you do your teacher reviews, where you review your teachers, tell to be honest, I like this teacher, I didn't like this teacher, but there's a place to say I don't like being online or I don't like being asynchronously online. So try to do all your teacher reviews if you can. I'm just reminding you, okay? Because I hope you've enjoyed this class, but I just telling you, I would have done a better job if we were in person, okay? Especially with this lecture here. I would have done a much better job with this lecture if we were in person. I did the best I could. I hope you understood it, but in person it just comes better because I have the board and all that kind of stuff. All right. So we did the best we could this semester. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all learned something, but it is what it is and we're stuck with it. All right. All right. As far as I'm concerned, I'm done. If you want to leave, you can. Just remember, regular lecture this Monday, the review is a week from today, and the test is the week after next. Chapter 10, 12, and 13. Okay.
Thanks, Professor.
Okay, and if anybody has any questions, I'm staying if anybody has any questions.
I have another question.
Yeah, I love your questions. Go ahead.
All right, good. So I have a question. So my thing is, because they have the A plus plus, right? Is that that's correct, right? A plus plus certification.
Well, be careful. A plus is a different one. If you're taking
yeah.
Bill Madden's 108 class, you can take that. But go ahead. What's your
Okay,
question?
so my question is it better to have the networking plus, A plus, and I think is it the security one? Yeah, I think it's the security one. All three. Do you get a higher paying job if you have all three?
Yeah. I'll put it this way. The more certs you have, the more likely you are to get a job. Right now, you're stuck with me in this class. So I would say this is the first one to get. But if you're looking down the line, the more certs you have, the more qualified you are. So
Gotcha.
you can add A plus to it in the future. If you can add security plus to it in the future, if you could possibly add Cisco in the future, you just make yourself more valuable.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'm really excited because next semester I take your cybersecurity class. So does that also prepare you for the test?
It does. And that's my favorite because
Hey.
as interesting as this class is, this is kind of boring. RJ45, Cat5 cable, you know, who cares? The cybersecurity class is much more interesting. But the answer to your question, it was brilliant.